Hello, everyone, and inside today's episode of Locked On Canadiens. It was an 8-2 romp over the Columbus Blue Jackets on Saturday night. I have your recap, all the key points you need from that, including a hat trick from one of the rookies, all that and more inside today's show.
Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ooh, I forgot to put my name up. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 811 of Locked On Canadiens. We are your daily Montreal Canadiens podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you get your team every single day. As always, thank you for subscribing wherever you get your daily podcast, or if you are watching on YouTube, thank you so much for tuning in to watch this mug at some point during your day. It does mean a lot to us. I am, of course, your host. I am Scott Matla. My co-host, the Active Stick, will be back in the next few episodes here. She has just gotten back from vacation. Let's have a little fun today's show. It's been a while since we've had a Monday where there's not much negative to talk about with the Montreal Canadiens as a whole right now. I look at the way their weekend went, and honestly, pretty great. The biggest downside is that Sean Farrell and Harvard lost big, but that's still a positive because the Canadiens are potentially signing Sean Farrell sometime in the next few days. And while I am recording this on Sunday morning at about 9 a.m., I am assuming it's going to happen the minute I wrap up this episode, and then there'll have to be a bonus episode, but that's getting off track. Saturday night hockey at the Bell Center. It was a celebration of Indigenous people. They had absolutely gorgeous warm-up jerseys. Obviously, everyone participated in that. I highly recommend you go read the article the Canadiens put out with the meaning behind all the different parts of this design, right down to why they picked the colors and the certain animals and certain symbols. It was very, very educating for someone like myself. And Mike Matheson's wife, Emily, who, is a superstar hockey player in her own right, and Jordan Harris's girlfriend, who was a 3-year starter at Northeastern for NCAA hockey, helped do a big part of that. They also put on a clinic before the game. Very important that they do this as part of their community there. And especially given that, one of the biggest superstars in Canadiens history comes from a First Nations background. Carey Price was there as well to greet some of the fans before the game. And I'm assuming, meet some of the kids and everything there. It was really, really important. And I'm glad the Canadiens, celebrated something like this. We've seen the Canucks do a very good job with this. We've seen a lot of the other Canadian teams do a very good job with this. And I'm very glad that Montreal also participated in this. It's obviously a big part of their franchise. Let's get to the game itself. This game showed everybody what the difference between a team who is currently not good when the season started. Columbus, and Jay and all my Blue Jackets friends, I'm sorry. Columbus has some good pieces, but they as a team are deeply flawed in a lot of other ways. And admittedly, they also played the night before this game. And then you have the Canadiens, who are a mix of unlucky and just needing to shed some weight here. This was a game that I dubbed the Toilet Bowl because it's two bad teams. The Canadiens have the 5th best odds at Bedard, and the Blue Jackets have the 2nd best odds at Bedard. Now that the Sharks have moved into last place. The gap between these two teams was astounding by the time this game was over. The game ended 8-2. And it was 2-2 going into the second period, where it's like, okay, that seems about right. It's two bad teams, neither really playing all that well. And then the Canadiens just hit an on switch and didn't look back. In the second period, you had a hat trick from Rafaël Harvey-Pinard. Just in the second period alone. The first rookie since Dick Gamble to have a hat trick in his rookie season. A A well-just reward, and I talked about this a lot on Game Over with Andrew Berkshire and Drew Deeks, in that Harvey-Pinard's getting rewarded for doing all the little right things correct, and that he's not just stapled to Nick Suzuki because there's no other options. There's definitely options right now. Now the injuries have ceased a little bit, and he's holding that spot. And speaking of Nick Suzuki, he had a 4-point night. How are you not happy about that? First 4-point night of his career, he just tied a career high in points. He's doing so many things right at the end of the season here. You can see that confidence building and growing in Nick Suzuki. And it's not all flash and sizzle. It's consistent efforts every single night. Pucks are going to the right spot. He's driving to the dangerous areas. And a lot of that is starting because of Mike Matheson at, carrying the puck out of the defensive zone. Mike Matheson being a straw that stirs the drink. Much better than a lot of players the Canadiens have had in recent years. You'd have to go back to a Subban Markov era to see someone having that similar impact. It was a very good game because if the Canadiens struggled in this one, I would have been more concerned that they're somehow worse than we thought, and they blew the Blue Jackets out. And for those who are wondering about the tank and everything, the Canadiens are staying in fifth. They could not move up or down yesterday. They stayed in fifth place, fifth best odds at Bedard. I think it's 8.5% right now. The Anaheim Ducks are, I believe it is 8 points behind them when I checked as of last night. Yeah, the Ducks are sitting at 56 points. They've lost 4 games in a row. The Canadiens are sitting at 64 points. The Arizona Coyotes are at 66 points. They play on Sunday against the Colorado Avalanche. And Philadelphia, who has won 3 in a row, sits at 68 points. This upcoming week, the Habs play the Buffalo Sabres, who are fighting desperately to try and push for that final playoff spot. Whether they get there or not, I don't know. And the Philadelphia Flyers on Monday and Tuesday this week. Heavy lottery implications here. A Sabres win gets them closer to passing the Panthers in the standings, which is good for Montreal's second first-round pick if they lose on Monday. And obviously the Flyers game is I don't want to call it a must-lose. I don't know what it is because the Flyers keep winning, but at the same time, the Canadiens don't need to keep winning games, but they probably should beat a team like the Flyers, who are also just not very good. I'm not quite sure what the Flyers are, to be honest with you. Them going on a mini winning streak here is, quite frankly, very funny to me at this point in time. It's a big week for the tank overall, and I gotta say, the Habs are likely finishing in one of the 4, 5, or 6 spots. I don't think they're even going to catch the Ducks, who are now 8 points ahead behind them. The Habs would have to lose out, basically, and the Ducks would have to probably win some games in there. And I don't see it happening. If I look at the strength of schedule here, Anaheim has the Kings, 2 games against the Avs, 2 games against the Oilers, 1 game against the Kraken, plus a Coyotes game. That's a big one. Really need a Coyotes win there. The Canucks and the Flames. The Habs have a Bruins game, a Carolina Hurricanes game, and a Leafs game, plus Philly, Detroit, Washington, Buffalo, Florida, and New York, the Islanders. It's going to be interesting to see if they can even get close to that, but I think the Habs are going to be locked in that 5-6 spot. I'm trying to find where Arizona is on this. They are 19th. They have a fairly easy schedule down the stretch there with some wins on their schedule. I think the Habs are going to be just fine. I think you should start looking at guys in the 5-6 range instead of the 1-2 range, but crazier things have happened, and it is Monday. So that means it is time for 3 Up and 3 Down. We always start with the down segment because we always want to finish with a positive note here. And we're going to get to that coming up next. But first, our first sponsor today is something that I use every morning because it helps me get my day started right with 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens. I am talking about Athletic Greens. It's super easy to take in the morning. It's just 1 scoop in a glass of water to help me get my day started right. And if you have a dietary restriction, if you are dairy-free, vegan, or gluten-free, Athletic Greens can work for you as well. And it is a small micro habit with big benefits. It's the one thing you can do every single day to take care of yourself and it comes with your subscription a year supply of vitamin D to help you, especially with some of those darker mornings. And it's got over 7,000 5-star reviews. That's recommended by professional athletes and leading health experts all the time. So right now, it is time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. Just one scoop and a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look after your health. And to make it even easier, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. We are back here at Locked On Canadiens, and we're going to dive right into the 3 up and 3 down. As I could tell right now, Sean Farrell has not been signed by the Montreal Canadiens, and it is 9:15. We are making stunning progress on this. On the down list this week, I don't think anyone's going to be surprised by this. The NHL Department of Player Safety is going to get a big old target painted on their back here. They suspended AJ Greer, which is more than I expect them to do after he blatantly cross-checked Mike Hoffman in the face. Hoffman ended up with 15 stitches on the outside of his mouth and 10 on the inside. His face is a mess. It hurts to look at. And I know people have their issues with Mike Hoffman, etc. Dude got cross-checked real bad in the face and looks like he has a second mouth now. And after the ruling came down from the Department of Player Safety on Friday, Hoffman took to Instagram stories and posted a story where he's just sitting in his couch at home going, when I was first suspended in the NHL for cross-checking, I got 2 games for cross-checking a guy in the back of the head where it looks like he was trying to, go, and he hit the guy in the back of the helmet. As good friend of the show, Ian Boisvert, pointed out, the NHL Department of Player Safety rulings were the same. There's no history. It was cross-checking, etc. Hoffman got 2 games. AJ Greer intentionally cross-checked Mike Hoffman in the mouth. You can't tell me he was aiming anywhere else because Hoffman is looking at him and he's got his stick at face level. He was aiming for his face the entire way. Split Hoffman's lower jaw open. Hoffman's playing in that weird jaw guard combo there. His mouth is a mess. It doesn't look comfortable. I can't imagine that trying to eat or drink anything feels all that good. And Hoffman rightly gave him the business calmly, too. He didn't go in and didn't go F-bomb this and George Parros sucks that, both of which probably would have been absolutely within his right to do. But he called him out and says he doesn't understand how he got 2 games and this was only 1. Because I'm pretty sure Greer's been suspended before, but I could be wrong on that front, and please correct me if I am. And this was a blatant act. He hit him right in the mouth. This on Mike Hoffman's face makes it look he's sticking his tongue out in a photo until you realize that's just his bloody scar on his face and the scabbing of that. It's awful. And to Hoffman's credit, he's, after getting that stitched up and getting his bubble shield on, he's actually played well in both games since then, which all credit to him to end that on a positive note. But Department of Player Safety, you're definitely ending up on this list. It's not going to be the first. This isn't the first time, and it won't be the last time as long as George Parros is in charge. You suck at your job. I know that's a very simplistic way of putting it, but it's the truth. You're terrible at it, and you should reconsider a lot of things there. So, now to move on to our next down for this episode here. I feel bad doing this because I don't think it's all his fault, but Jake Allen is winless in his last 7 starts, some of which are not his fault, some of which are. That Florida Panthers game, I'm just throwing out the window at this point because I don't know what the hell to make of that still at this point. I look at Jake Allen, and that Bruins game was a weird one where that first goal was just a fluke. He's not tight to his post, but I don't think he expected a shot from there. The second one, Joel Edmondson wipes out David Savard. Breakaway chance for Jake DeBrusk. And then the other one is David Pasternak just shoots it through a Joel Edmondson screen. I don't know if Allen's playing a little bit banged up and they don't want to rush Primo up while the Rocket are trying to compete for a playoff spot, which is entirely fair, or if it's just he's having a rough go of it this season, which is also entirely fair. I feel a little bit bad trying to pick on him, but going winless in 7 starts is a tough run of form here. And I haven't even looked at what his stats are this season because I can't imagine they're good. I'm actually going to load those up right now. They are not great in he's 14, 24, and 3 this season. Okay, that's fine. 3.57 goals against, 891 save percentage. And he's had like some good games in here, mind you. But at the same time, you're waiting to see another strong performance. He had a 944 against New Jersey, they lost. 923 against Carolina, they lost. 909 against LA, they lost in regulation. 974 against San Jose, 923 against Philly, they won. 878 against there. He had a shutout against Chicago. Like, some of the numbers in there are good, but they're dragged down by some real bad starts in here. Going back to December, against Washington, a 775, against Florida, 667. I don't think they're as bad as they look, but I think the Canadiens are definitely hoping that with Jake Allen likely coming back next year, he rounds a little bit closer to his career number. If he's that 909, 907 goalie, and Samuel Montembeault can give them 910, maybe, they're going to be all right there. Goaltending is still an area of concern, I think, for the Canadiens going forward for the first time in, God, I don't know how many years. I'm hoping Jake Allen bounces back. I think he's going to get a win or two to end the season here, which I think will be important for him. And it's a good building block to move on with. But that's all I really have in the down segment this week. I don't want to pick on too much because I have so much in the up segment, and that's all coming up next. But first, our show today is also brought to you by our friends at Built Bar. If you know this show, you know we love Built Bar. It's the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, and it is covered in 100% real chocolate. It's like a reward every single time. And with only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and a whopping 17 grams of protein, Built Bar is the best way to fuel your day. Coming in flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. They are the ideal thing first thing in the morning when you're on your way to work. You need that midday pickup, or if it's after your workout, Built Bar is there for you. And while you always could shop at built.com, you can now go to your local Walmart or Sam's Club and pick them up as well. You can go to your Walmart, pick up a 4-box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs, or go into Sam's Club and buy a 13-bar box with flavors like brownie batter and churro. Folks, you can just thank me later on that. So right now, head to built.com, go to your local Walmart or your local Sam's Club, and pick up a Built Bar today. I am back here at Locked On Canadiens. It is time to finish up our Monday episode. It is now almost 9:30, and Sean Farrell has not been signed by the Montreal Canadiens. Doing great here. We're going to move into the up section, and we could spend an entire episode doing an up episode because that's how enjoyable this week was for the Montreal Canadiens. And I want to start with two of the unheralded pieces from Saturday night, and even the Bruins game. Well, Mike Matheson played in the Bruins game. Samuel Montembeault did not. Samuel Montembeault played against Columbus. But Mike Matheson is on a ridiculous heater for the Montreal Canadiens. He is being the straw that stirs the drink for everything that they do. Every little thing starts with something Mike Matheson is seemingly doing in the neutral zone or with the puck on his stick. His skating ability allows him to become a true offensive threat, which is just it. All respect to Jeff Petrie. It's a different level of dynamic in terms of how they move the puck up there. Petrie's a lot more methodical, which was fine because he was very good at it. Matheson takes that charge himself and gets deep into the offensive zone and creates things, whether he's spinning around defenders and throwing the puck on net and Harvey-Pinard is batting it in, or just skating the puck in deep and giving them different angles to attack from. Mike Matheson is making that difference on the Montreal Canadiens right now. And Samuel Montembeault continues to have just a really solid season overall. I'm actually going to look up his numbers here too, because I haven't done that yet. He's been remarkably consistent across the board. He's 15, 14, and 3 this season, 905 save percentage, 3.28 goals against. In his last couple starts, 913 against Columbus, 939 against Tampa, 900 against Tampa, 875 against Florida, rebounding after a really bad start, 907 against Pittsburgh. And then 889 against Colorado, 909 against New York, 909 against Anaheim. Rough game against the Senators, 773, but then 950 against New Jersey. I gotta say, it's looking more and more like Samuel Montembeault should be the starter on this team next year, and Jake Allen being the 1B, which is fine because that's where the Canadiens are at right now. Also in the up segment, Lane Hudson continues to rule, but you knew that already. They move on to the Frozen Four. They will play Minnesota and Rhett Pitlick next, I believe. So once I remember the date, I will be sure to tweet that out for all of you. But Luke Tuck and Lane Hudson against Rhett Pitlick in the Minnesota Golden Gophers, in which would be a very, very fun game. Also on the up list this week, Kirby Dach does not look like he missed that much time with injury. Another really strong game against Columbus, really good game against the Bruins. I'm noticing Kirby Dach in all the right ways, and it's not always flashy, but you always notice it. We've been crying out, begging, screaming, throwing up for a player like Kirby Dach for the longest time, and then one just kind of fell into their laps, which is great. You love to see that kind of thing happen. I still do not understand why Chicago gave up on him. Clearly, it wasn't going to work there anyways. And I think Kent Hughes recognizing that, or having someone in the organization who recognized the talent that Kirby Dach has, was huge, because if you have Suzuki, Dach, and then whatever, and Jake Evans, it's a really good future going forward for this team here. And now, speaking of the future, Nick Suzuki and Rafaël Harvey-Pinard. Nick Suzuki had 8 points in 3 games this week. As Arpon Basu put it on Twitter, if Nick Suzuki isn't one of the players of the week, I kind of wonder what we're doing here. First 4-point night. He's riding a string of multi-point games. I think he's got, 3 or 4 in a row at this point now. He ties his career high in points with a 4-point effort against Columbus. People asked him, game over on Saturday night, can he hit 70? I don't see why not. There's some tough games in there, but even in tough games recently, Nick Suzuki has made his presence known. And this, by all means, needs to end the is Nick Suzuki a first-line center debate. Yes. And I want to thank Andrew Berkshire, who pointed this out to me when we were recording Game Over. If we look at the Boston Bruins, the current best team in the NHL by points, David Pastrnak leads their team in scoring with 95 points, of course. Brad Marchand is second on their team with 63 points. Nick Suzuki has 61. Nick Suzuki would be the third leading scorer on the best team in the NHL, and he's doing that without Cole Caulfield, was doing that without most of his regular defensemen for part of the season, without a regular offensive partner for a good chunk of the back half of this year here. He had Cole Caulfield until Caulfield was injured, and then he had Anderson, and then he had Hoffman, and then he had Ylonen, and then he had Harvey-Pinard, and then he had Rem Pitlick, and then he had Belzile, and then you get the point. There's not that same consistency. Bergeron and Marchand are playing with Pastrnak at any point in time, or David Krejci. Nick Suzuki's producing at a rate that is just fine. He's very good at what he does. This is not going, I will not accept that Nick Suzuki isn't a 1C debate anymore. He's on pace he's going to set a new career high, all things considered here. And he's doing it on a team that's been just besieged by injuries again. And he's doing it subtly. And he's still doing it every single night, playing the hardest defensive minutes on the team. Or he was until Dach and Evans came back. He's playing the most minutes out of any forward on the team. And he's doing so without his usual running mate. And he's finding that success now. And I think that Nick Suzuki needs to get his flowers from Habs fans this season. I think a lot of people are underappreciating what he's doing because, they want to see a guy who's hitting 80, 90 points as their first line center. It's hard to do that. And what Suzuki's doing is pretty damn good for the modern NHL. And to cap this episode on the up list, Rafaël Harvey-Pinard. Anyone who's followed me on Twitter during all my AHL writing, who's been following this podcast, I've said for years that Rafaël Harvey-Pinard will be an NHL player. And I am correct in my analysis. He is an NHL player. I did not think he would be this good off the bat. And yes, part of that is a shooting percentage thing. But I look at where his goals are coming from. He's living in that Brendan Gallagher, Tomas Holmstrom zone around the net. He's getting deflections. He's getting redirects. He's cleaning up loose pucks in the crease. He's doing all the little things right that are high percentage. Of course, the shooting percentage is high when he only has to, chip at it once to get it over the line. It's not like he's whacking it 4 times and then that counts as the goal. He's getting it over with deflections and everything that are counting as shots on net. Shooting percentage is high because he's getting to the high percentage areas. He's a guy who's 5'9", living in the slot and around the net, and he's doing so well. His hat trick was just hard work and effort. And big shout out to Mike Hoffman. That pass for his hat trick goal where he's at the side of the net and was able to deflect it with a stick on the ice, just a beautiful all-around play. You couldn't draw it up any better than that. And yeah, Hoffman could have shot it. And he deferred, and Harvey-Pinard gets his hat trick. An absolutely perfect showing from the rookie there. Like I said, first rookie to have a hat trick since Dick Gamble, which I think was 1952. And yes, Habs on Reddit, this Dick Gamble reference is for you once again. He's in the top 10 for rookie goal scoring, and he's played 29 games. And he's behind guys who've been playing for their teams all season at this point. I'm not saying he's going to catch Wyatt Johnson or Matty Beniers. If he did, that'd be cool. I don't think he will. But Harvey-Pinard gets a big up for me this week. I'm so glad that he's thriving because it makes me look way smarter than I potentially am with this. But it's hard to not love what this kid's doing in what was a bad season for the Canadiens, unfortunately. So that is our up list this week. Please tweet us your ups and your downs for this week. And obviously, we do this every Monday after the game's in hand. We did have to move our episode with Patrick Bexell. He is currently in Rogel watching Adam Engstrom in the SHL playoff. So we had to push back our episode we had planned for today. I will have him on this week. We will get your European prospects episode out. We will see you all on Monday after the Sabres game, I believe. As always, you can find us wherever you find your daily podcast. On Twitter at @LO_Canadians. You can follow me at Scott Matlis. Subscribe on YouTube. Ring the bell to get notified every time we post a brand new episode. And folks, we will see you all next time.